Hello and welcome to Dice and Demons. I'm Emma, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new skirmish style game for Age of Sigmar 4.0 Spearhead. Games Workshop kindly sent me the Skaventide box, and one of the things I was most excited about was actually trying out the Spearhead game mode. Because I've heard a lot about it from people who've tried it at a con or something, and it seemed like they were really enjoying themselves. And I was kind of skeptical because I enjoy the big army games. I like having, 50, 80, 100 models on a tabletop. I like the feeling of being a general of a mighty army, and I'm not really into stuff like Warcry or Kill Team or anything. So I was expecting that this would be okay, that it would be kind of fun, but probably not something that would be immensely enjoyable for me, at least. I was also a little bit afraid that it would have the same feeling that Combat Patrol can have for 40k. It feels a little bit like it's attacked on game mode. It's not something that Games Workshop has invested a huge amount of energy in into actually making it a really cool game. So I was kind of afraid that this would be more or less the same thing just for Age of Sigmar, but yeah, I actually had a lot of fun. I'm not gonna say that this is the game I will prefer playing over 40k or Age of Sigmar, but I definitely think this is up there actually, guys. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you my thoughts about this new game mode, the pros and cons, and what I really enjoyed about it, and hopefully give you some insights to make it a little bit easier for you to decide if this is something that you are going to be investing in or not. So first of all, we're going to be taking a look at the rulebook. I know that the really cool models in the Skaventide box is probably what most people are interested in when they're picking up the box. But this is not just a game for the two armies in the Skaventide box. This is a game for almost all of the armies that you can get in Age of Sigmar. So we'll be focusing primarily here on the rules and how the game plays, and not so much on the models in the Skaventide box. So I think this rulebook looks really nice. It's really well made and it's well laid out, and you have lots of pictures with examples like what does the terrain look like, how does it work, what are the objectives called, how do they look, how do they work. You have you have names for each of the different objectives, and they all have a different picture on them to make it really easy to distinguish one from the other. And overall, I just think a lot of effort has been put into making this game as easy to understand as possible. It is a complex game, I'm not gonna lie. It is a complex game, and I've played 3 games with a couple of my friends, and even though all 3 of us are used to playing tabletop war games, we still made mistakes. There are still rules we misunderstood or overlooked or forgot about, and I think that'll be the case for at least the next few games going forward for me at least. But still, we had a lot of fun, and it felt like it's something that if you spend a couple of games really getting into it and you go back and reference the rules, you'll pretty soon be playing a game and not making too many rule mistakes, at least. Then we get to the part of the rulebook that takes up most of the space, which is a description of all the armies that you can field in Spearhead. And on the first page, you'll have a short description of the type of army you're fielding, so a little bit of fluff or lore, if you will. And then on the other page, you will have an overview of the buffs that you can use on your army. And some of them are battle traits, which is you don't have to choose any of these. They're just there for you to use. Some of them are like passive buffs, and some of them are once per battle. And then you have regiment abilities, where you'll pick one of the following, and then you'll also have enhancements, where you will also pick one of the following. And the enhancements is something that you give to your general to make him or her just that little bit more tanky or killy or whatever. And even though there is no list building in Spearhead, I think this is a fun way of adding just a little bit of choice for you as a player, something to make, just to add a little bit of variety, something where you feel like, yeah, I'm actually choosing this. What kind of buffs do I want for the army? What kind of buffs do I want for my general? I think that's kind of cool. Then you have here the war scrolls that you can see, and the war scrolls look, I think, exactly like they are going to be looking in Age of Sigmar 4.0, and I think this is a huge bonus, because it means that If you want to switch from one game system to the other, you already know how a war scroll looks. You know how much movement, what kind of save and so on your units have. And then I think it's just the abilities on the cards that are simplified for Spearhead compared to Age of Sigmar. So it'll just be really easy to switch from one game system to another. Also, look here, you have this nice red icon up here, and it tells you that these units can be reinforced, and some units can and some units can't. And it's just a fun ability because also the clan rats can, and I've only played with the clan rats so far. And it's just a feel-good moment when the opponent destroys all of your tiny little rat dudes, and you just put them back on the tabletop. I kind of like that. So looking through the book, I think it looks like all of the armies should be quite fun and flavorful to play. I haven't read all of the rules for all of the armies in detail, but I think it looks like Games Workshop have really tried to make each faction fun and unique. And I'm actually kind of thinking about just buying Spearhead boxes, not because I want to play a full Age of Sigmar army of that specific faction perhaps, but just because I want to play them in Spearhead. So I can see myself having multiple Spearhead armies to choose from, so that I can also again add a little bit more variety. I don't know. I'll wait and see. I think also how this takes off. If I'm the only player in my local area who really wants to play Spearhead, perhaps I don't need 5 different Spearhead armies. But if it really takes off and you can, enter tournaments and stuff, then I think having multiple Spearheads probably wouldn't be such a terrible idea. One thing I would like to see added by Games Workshop to this game mode would be War Scroll cards. And I know it sounds perhaps a little bit silly. There are, after all, only like perhaps 4 or 5, maybe 6 at the most, I'm not sure, different War Scroll cards for each army. So it should be pretty easy to memorize it all. But if you're a new player and you are playing against someone else who is new at Spearhead and you only have this one book, there's just a lot of going back and forth, looking at the main rules. How does this phase of the game work, or how does the terrain work, or whatever, like going back and forth like that. And then switching between looking at the battle traits or enhancements, looking at the war scrolls, and then giving the book to the other player because you have now made an attack and they can't remember their save or whatever. It just meant, for me at least, as I played with my friends, we only had this one book, and we really went back and forth with that book so many times. And having War Scroll cards would just have made things a little bit easier. War Scroll cards where you could also see the battle traits, the regiment abilities, and so on. That would just, it's not something that means the game is bad or that you're not having fun, but it would be a nice sort of quality of life improvement if you were able to have War Scroll cards. Otherwise, I might suggest that you just take photos of these and have it on your phone so they're a little bit more easily accessible, perhaps. I don't know. It would just be nice to have a bit of a quicker reference for each of your war scrolls and your abilities than if you just are 2 people having to share one rule book, I think. Then for something that is not so great for you, especially if you are an Ironjaws player, Ironjaws don't have rules in this book. You can play Orc War Clans, but they're only represented by the Cruel Boys, by I think the models that were in the Dominion box, but no rules for Ironjaws. And I just think, it's a little bit silly. Every single other faction, I think, actually has a Spearhead and can play this game mode. And then just weirdly, one of the armies have been left out. Yeah, I think that's a little bit weird. And I really hope that they do get a Spearhead box and Spearhead rules further down the line and as quickly as possible. I do have a soft spot for Orcs. I play Orcs in 40k. I don't have Ironjaws for Age of Sigmar. But still, no Ironjaws. It's just weird. I think every single army should be represented in this game mode. It's just yeah. I don't really see why not. Of course the Ironjaws could get rules so that they would play well in Spearhead as well. So Games Workshop, please please let Ironjaws also have fun with the Spearhead. I think they would. I think they would enjoy bringing the war to the smaller Age of Sigmar format here. In this book, you also have the core rules, which are the same as the ones for Age of Sigmar. So this section of the book looks exactly identical to the one in the rulebook for Age of Sigmar. And then at the very back, as you can see here, you have a Spearhead reference where you'll find some of the rules that are sort of special to this type of game mode, which I think it's really nice with an easy overview, something that you can use for a quick reference if you need it. So just a quick look on the battle mat. It's a two-sided battle mat made out of cardboard. It's sturdy cardboard and it looks nice, but you know, it's still cardboard nonetheless. And I've been transporting mine back and forth from a friend's house a few times, and it will start to fray at the edges. Just no way getting around that. But it looks nice, and it's definitely an easy way of starting the game. You just bring out these battle mats and you're all set to go. One of the things I really like is that you have these two sides, Gairan, the green one, which is for the Realm of Life, and then you have this lava and stone one, which is for actually the Realm of Fire, and it actually makes a difference to the gameplay. It's not just that the objectives are placed a little bit differently on each side, it's also there are cards that gives you twists, and it depends on what game mat you're playing on, which realm you're playing in, what will happen. So I think that's really nice, just adding a little bit more immersion to the game. I also think it's cool that the objectives are already placed there to begin with, so that you don't have to measure out or do anything when you start the game. It's already laid out for you. You can just start playing. Also notice that there is a diagonal line going all the way across both of these battle mats, and that is because there are two ways of deploying the army, just one on either each side of the long side of the battle mat, but you can also deploy diagonally, and it's just again sort of a quality of life thing. Of course you can easily use a measuring tape to draw a diagonal line across this mat, but it's already painted in for you, and it just makes it that bit more easy to get started, I think. You'll also notice that there are different symbols painted on the objectives, and that's because there are specific mission objectives that will tell you to grab a specific objective. And so it'll say, oh, you need to grab the Dracothian one, and that's, for instance, the one in the middle here, which is sort of Dracoline, and it might say you need to grab the Behemoth one, which is the skull, and so on. And it just, again, instead of saying objective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just fun that it has a name and that it's been laid out so you can just see exactly what you are meant to be doing at that specific time. Speaking of objectives and missions, let's take a look at the cards that come with this box. There are 3 different types of cards in it. There are 2 sets of twist cards, one for Gairan and one for Akshi, and then there are 2 identical sets of battle tactic cards, one for each player. So here you have the battle twists for the Gairan and for the Akshi, and it's nice that they're printed with a different symbol on the back, just to make it easy for you to see what's actually going on and which deck you are supposed to be using for that specific game. So here you can see one of the Akshi cards, and first it gives you a sort of objective, something to do, a mission, and it says here each player scores 1 extra victory point at the end of their turn for each objective they control that was controlled by their opponent at the start of their turn. And then it says, in addition, the underdog picks 1 friendly unit to be the Spearhead. That unit's melee weapons have charged +1 damage this battle round. So I really like, you don't know which card you are going to be turning over at the start of each battle round, but there will be something that will give you extra points if you achieve that mission, but there will also be something for the underdog. And I really like this mechanic because it's a catch-up mechanic. So the underdog is whoever has the least amount of points at the start of each battle round, and so they will get a slight buff with each of these twist cards. And I just think it's nice to make sure that if you are behind on points, you're not just completely out of the game by turn 2 or 3. You'll have a chance of perhaps not winning the game, but yeah, catching up a little bit and still be in it and enjoy it and get a slight buff. And I just think I think it's nice to have something like that. I don't think it should be too too big, too badass, like in, you know, Mario Karts when you play and they hit you with a blue shell because you're in the lead and you're going to win, and now you're just not, and you have nothing you can do about it. But this is these are slight buffs that I think work really well in the game. It also seems to me that Games Workshop has tried to make sure that each of these decks have a sort of flavor to them, so that the actual ones are just a little bit more focused on violence and attacking, whereas the Gairan ones, they obviously also have a focus on, you know, battling, because this is a war game. But some of the cards will be slightly more, slightly less focused on doing damage and more on holding objectives, or and some of the underdog mechanics will also allow you to heal units, for instance. And I think it's fun that you have these twist cards, because it means that the game is a little bit more unpredictable, instead of it just being like, we just run at each other, and whoever rolls the best dice in the first battle round and chops down more of the enemy units is automatically going to win. So you have to be able to be a little bit flexible with the way you play, and it just adds a bit of unpredictability that I think is really fun, and means that you can play this game over and over and not get bored of it, I think. So yeah, I really like these twist cards, and I particularly like the underdog mechanic. I just think it's a nice addition to the game. Then you have the battle tactic cards, and there are 12 cards in each deck, and they are identical, so each player gets the same deck. And it will give you small missions to complete during each battle round. And so this one is, for instance, you complete this battle tactic if you control the Ignis objective at the end of your turn. And then underneath it you have a command, and you have to choose. Each battle round you can draw up to 3 different cards, and either you can complete the battle tactic and get the victory point, or you can use the command at the bottom of the card. You can't do both, so you have to choose, and I think that is really a really fun mechanic, both because sometimes you might think, oh, I can actually do this battle tactic and get the point, but I could also really use this command. So you need to make difficult decisions, which I think is always great in a game when it forces you to choose between 2 good things. Also, if you draw a battle tactic and you think, there is just no way I can complete this, well then perhaps the command is something that you find really useful, and so it's not just all bad luck if you draw a card and you think, I can't complete this battle tactic. So again, with these cards, I think both the Axia and Gairan twist cards work really well, and also the battle tactic cards. This will also, of course, be an easy way, I think, for Games Workshop to add to the game. Just add more cards, more twists, more battle mats with with different sides, so that you can compete in different realms. It would just be an easy way of expanding the game and making it even more varied than it already is. The whole double turn mechanic in Age of Sigmar has been the object of much love and much hate, and you still have the double turn mechanic in Spearhead, but there is again a twist to it, and it's about seizing the initiative, as you can see here from the rulebook. And it says, if the player who went second in the previous battle round wins the priority roll and chooses to go first, it's called seizing the initiative. When a player seizes the initiative, they do not draw any battle tactic cards for that battle round unless they are the underdog and the difference in victory points between the 2 players is 5 or greater. So that means you can choose to do a double turn if you win the priority roll, but it comes with a heavy price. You cannot draw any battle tactic cards. So if you have used all 3 battle tactic cards from the previous round, then you have no way of gaining extra victory points besides, just holding one objective 2 or more than the opponent. And you have no of the command options available to you either. So it really comes at a heavy price. Of course, if you haven't, for some reason, haven't used your 3 battle tactic cards from the previous round, you still have them. So in that case, you don't lose out as much, but usually you will use those cards one way or the other. So not drawing any tactic cards, difficult choice. On the other hand, going for a double turn can sometimes make or break the game, especially if you are if you really need to kill a specific enemy model or something. But I just really like that it's not something that you just go for because why not? Again, it's a difficult decision that you have to make based on the specific game and the context you're playing in right now. And I like that it forces you to really think hard about what you want to do. In those games I had, when someone had the chance to do a double turn, it took a little while to actually decide whether or not to go for it because the price was so high. But on the other hand, a double turn is also really good, and I really like that. And I also think it's cool, again, this small catch-up mechanic. If you are 5 victory points behind, which is a lot in this game, you can do it without paying that price, which I think is fun and fair, because it means you perhaps can get back into the game. So I really like this mechanic. I think it's an excellent idea of making you choose between two things you really want, and deciding what is the best option for me right now in this game. I think it's a really nice way of still keeping the double turn without it being completely overpowered or broken. So all in all, as you can tell, I am pretty excited about Spearhead. I think it's a really fun game, and I think for a tabletop war game, it's pretty accessible. It's easy to get started. You have the battle mats. You already have the different armies. You don't have to do any sort of list building or anything. The only thing you really have to choose before the game is what type of buffs you want to give your army, like the enhancement for the general and the regiment abilities. And then that's basically it. You can just go to town and start playing. And I really like that, because I think, for me at least, playing a game of Age of Sigmar or 40k, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. Not because I don't want to. I really like the games once I'm actually playing, but the preparations before a game can be something that makes me feel a little bit exhausted before I even start rolling the dice. Because I need to do all the list building, and I typically find that a little bit difficult to do. And then you need to bring a whole bunch of models. You need to set up the board. You need to measure out the objectives and place the terrain. And I know for a lot of people that's a part of the fun. But for me, it's not really what drives me to play these games. It's painting the models, which I love, and then it's actually playing the game, moving the models around, rolling the dice, and having these sort of cinematic moments where something blows up in a big explosion or something. That's what I want out of a tabletop war game, and I think Spearhead just ticks a lot of the boxes for wargaming that I really like. You actually have the feeling that you are a general, you're moving troops around. You don't just have a warband or a tiny kill team. Not to speak badly of those games, it's just not for me. And you also have the ability to choose these buffs, which means you can just tailor it slightly. And then it just has a lot of difficult decisions that you need to make along the way. Do you want to go for a specific battle tactic and score the victory points, or do you really need the command? Do you want to go for a double turn, or should you let your opponent just go with I go, you go, because you really don't want to lose the ability to draw the battle tactics and so on. So I think it's a really fun game, and I think it has a lot of it's relatively easy to get into, but it also has quite a lot of depth, I feel. So I think it's one of those games that are perhaps easy to learn but hard to master, which I think is the best type of game if you enjoy sort of strategy games at all. So yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised by Spearhead, and the friends I played with were also really excited about it, even if they perhaps hadn't expected to find it quite so engaging. They were really hyped for it, and so I think we're definitely going to be playing so many games of Spearhead in the coming months, and I'm already planning to buy more. I have bought some Croxigors for my Seraphon army, because that's what I need to have a proper Spearhead for my Seraphon army. I mean, I did want the Croxigors anyway, but I bought them specifically because I want to be able to field a Seraphon Spearhead army. So yeah, really pleasantly surprised. I had so much fun, and I think it's one of the most accessible ways of getting into a sort of true army style war game, and not those smaller skirmish style games where you have just war bands or something. Yeah. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think it sounds fun? Is it something you are looking forward to try out? Do you prefer other types of skirmish games or smaller army games? Let me know what you think. And also, if you have any further questions for me about the game and what I think about it. And also let me know if you would like to see a how to play a Spearhead video. I can definitely do one if you guys are interested in watching it. And last but certainly not least, I would like to thank the wonderful people who support Dice and Demons over on Patreon. So thank you so much to Thomas Madsen, Gwenna L, Jordan Hollands, Queen's Wolf, Double J's Terrain, Mola, Steve Eberly, Nassim Makaya, Andrew Correa, Anthony Polcastro, Bosworth the Rogue, Mando Project, Starcorn85, S. Bear, Iconocus, Elliot Philby, Dr. Tom Zimbardo, Cyberfossil, Cinnamon Coffee 87, Terrainery, Joshua and Anya Pavelsic, Charlie Robertson, and VT Knight 007. If you would also like to join the Patreon and support Dice and Demons, I will leave a link to that down in the show notes. Also remember that you can stay up to date on my painting projects if you follow me as Dice and Demons over on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!